Hello my lovelies, welcome to Goddess Enchantment's channel. I am Claire and today we are going to be talking about how to cleanse your crystals and when to cleanse your crystals. So if you like the sound of this video, please do give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and if you would like, subscribe and click the bell so you are notified of any upcoming videos. So I am going to be splitting this into kind of a three-part mini series, if you like. So we're going to talk cleansing today. There'll be one on charging and one on programming as well. So hopefully that will be helpful to a lot of you. I have a super old video on here that's had like 150,000 views and it's not front facing. It's like 5 or 6 or maybe more years old. So I thought it was time that we did a little refresher. So first things first, when should we cleanse our crystals? Now, I think the most obvious one is when we have purchased a new one, whether you have picked it in a shop or whether you have purchased it online and it is coming to you in the post. Crystals are like energetic sponges. So if it's been in a store, if it's been in someone's home, if people are coming in and out, if people are picking the crystal up and putting it down, every time someone's doing that, that person is leaving a energetic imprint on the crystal. The same with the environment it's in. The environment that crystal has come from leaves an imprint on it. It's why, obviously, we sell crystals here. We keep our crystals out. So we have shelves for all of our crystals and special little boxes. They come out and they get moon charged. Any that are on the website still waiting for homes, ones before events. So energy is really, really important. And when you get a new crystal by post or from a shop, you want to make sure that you are starting with a clean slate. You don't want anyone else's energy on there. You don't know if they were angry that day that they touched it, or if they were in an emotional state or something else was going on and that crystal's now absorbed the energy. So when a new crystal comes into your home, you want to cleanse that. Then there are crystals that you use for your practice. So this could be spheres, this could be carvings, it could be crystal grids. So when you have finished working with a crystal, if you have started working with it for a specific intention, you've made that crystal grid, you've placed that generator with a beautiful petition underneath on your altar for something at the full moon. When you have finished working with that intention and you want to start using those crystals for something else, you deactivate your grid, and then when you take the crystals apart, then you would want to cleanse them. The same with any crystals on your altars or that you are working intensively with. You want to cleanse them and remove the program before you go on and use them for something else. Then there are crystals that you wear. So crystals you wear or carry with you. It could be tumbles, it could be worry stones, it could be gemstone jewelry. This is going to need cleansing the most because it is on you all the time. And you're going to end up being able to judge intuitively when it's time to cleanse your jewelry because it's constantly interacting with you. And if you are having a great time at the moment, you're in a great space in your life, you're wearing your crystal jewelry to support you and your practice and, you know, just to tap into that crystal energy, your jewelry is going to need to be cleansed less than someone who is going through a health challenge, going through an emotional challenge, who is trying to transmute or move energy through working with intention jewelry. Then they're going to need to cleanse and clear their jewelry a lot more often, and their tumbles, things that they're carrying on their person. So allow yourself to really tune in and think about the type of work that you're doing and your mental and emotional state at the time. Which then brings me on to crystals around your home. If you are over in my Facebook community group, then I have taught a lot over there about the crystals by the front door. So many of my community have the same crystals as me now by the front door, the same sort of arrangement. so that it's making sure it's doing all the levels, all the layers of things when people are coming into our home. You might have an ocean jasper bowl in the center of your living room with some happy home herb mix in, bringing in that energies of happiness and joy. You may have some generators placed around the home for certain energies, good communication, bedroom crystals for sleep. These crystals tend to need less cleansing than the ones that you're working intensively with, either on your person or in your spiritual practice, such as your grids, such as your altars. So with them, the way I like to think of it is I take a mental check every full moon. When the full moon comes, I will go around the house and be like, okay, when was the last time that one was cleansed? I've been going through a lot when it's come to this month, and those crystals are what's been working on that. So those will be the ones that I'll focus in on cleansing. Sometimes I will cleanse all the crystals in the house on the full moon. But by setting that time, and you could do it full moon or new moon, however you were called, or just choose a random date that's you can put on your calendar. But by having some kind of set date around it, it's almost like a mental reminder just to check in. It may be you don't have anything that needs to be cleansed that full moon, but at least you've had that reminder to go and have a little look. So when it comes to cleansing your crystals, there are two types of cleansing. There are cleansing away any negative energies, low vibrations, energies that are not serving your highest good. And that type of cleansing can even be done to crystals that are working. So a grid that's programmed, set up and activated, you can cleanse them, and you're not going to remove the program and the energy that's there. You're just going to refresh the energy of the grid and the crystals. And that can be used on your altar, around your home, your working pieces. But when we want to remove a program, so if I have chosen specifically a crystal grid for, I don't know, prosperity, and I've worked with it for 4 or 5 months, and I either want to change the grid up completely or work with a different intention, I'll deactivate that grid. I have a video on activating and deactivating grids. If you're like, hang on a minute, Claire, I'm missing a step, you can have a little look at that. But when you take that grid down and you have deactivated it, you now want to remove that program and the energy you've been working with, so you can then work with those crystals for something brand new. So then we would cleanse them. So that way, I would say the same thing. I like to say verbally. My students have seen me do it a million times. I've taught them to do it. And I will say aloud, as I'm using my chosen method of cleansing, that I would like to cleanse and clear any low vibrations, negative energies, energies that are not serving my highest good. And if I want to remove a program, I will state that I am releasing the program from these crystals. And all of that energy then be taken down into the earth to be transmuted into white usable light by Gaia. And then your crystals will have their program removed as well. So you've got two types of cleansing there. Now, when it comes to cleansing your crystals, there are so many methods. Everyone's going to have their favorites. Everyone's going to have reasons why they don't like one over the other. So there is something here for everyone. Now, the first one I think is the most obvious is white, which a bit just dropped on me. How wonderful. White sage. Now, this can be controversial. And if you disagree with me, that's perfectly fine. I have so many other methods here for you. But I'm in the UK and I actually grow white sage. We have a massive white sage bush here. I think it's like 4 or 5 years old now. And I have worked with the plant medicine of white sage. I teach green and kitchen witchery each year. Last year I taught green witchery. This year it's green and kitchen witchery. That course we're just starting now because I teach live. But I do have a green witchery self-study. If you want to check the Academy site, it will be in the drop down under this video. Now, I have personally worked with white sage plants, so I have asked that sage if it's okay for me to work with it and if it wants to share its medicine, and it does, and it's powerful, powerful plant medicine, but it does deserve respect. and it needs to be harvested correctly. The plant needs to be a certain age before you can even harvest from it. When you do harvest from it, you can only take so much, because if you take too much from the mother plant will die. Some people don't like to use it because of cultural appropriation. Now, with myself and at GE, we stock white sage, but our white sage actually comes from Native Americans who are actually harvesting ritually, and they have the business on the reservation. It's provided jobs for everyone living there. The money goes back into the community, and they are all about teaching how to work with white sage respectfully and sharing some of their traditions. And they're really, really wonderful people. So we know our white sage has good energy, and it's not just random, who knows where that came from some kind of, whatever shop that you've walked in and there's a pile of sage. I know where our sages come from. I know where our sage essential oils come from, but it's a personal choice. But I personally love white sage. But if you are not for white sage, you can use herbs native to you. If you grow sage and rosemary, you can bundle up that sage garden sage and rosemary together and use that as a smudge stick. I like to add in some hyssop because we grow hyssop here. Sometimes I'll add in some mugwort. So it really depends. I try when I can to make smudge sticks available in the shop that I have made from our garden. So you can use those local plants to you, or you can buy smudge sticks that are other varieties that don't contain the white sage. We stock quite a few. This one is copal, for example. We have sweetgrass and cedar and rosemary, eucalyptus. We have a whole bunch of different herbs that you can work with, and you can work with them in a stick form like that, and you just light the end. You can work with them in a natural incense form, so like a grain incense. Do I have one near me? Which will kind of look like that. Which is resins and herbs and woods, and you can cleanse through smoke that way. So smoke is a very effective way to cleanse your crystals, and it is suitable for every crystal you have. Carving, rough crystal, soft crystal, different shapes, different sizes. There's kind of nowhere that you can't get with it. So if you've got awkward pieces that are larger, you can really get there with smoke. But smoke is not necessarily suitable for everyone. One thing I would say when using incense to clear is you want to make sure that you are buying 100% natural incense. There are a lot of additives, a lot of toxins in most of the incense on the market, especially the cheaper incense from like Poundland and the supermarkets and stuff like that are fragrance oils. And you can't, well, I don't like to say you can't actually, because that's not a word that I personally believe as a teacher you should use unless you're talking about something super duper serious, because everyone has their own path, their own intuition. And if your intuition tells you something different than I'm saying, you should absolutely go and try what your intuition is telling you. But I personally don't recommend working with those kind of incenses. One, because they are not good health-wise, but two, we're cleansing a crystal, so we want to cleanse it with something natural. For me, I don't see any correlation to being able to cleanse a crystal with an artificial fragrance oil from an incense stick. They don't match up for me personally, but you can get natural incense. I have a whole video on YouTube all about this subject if you'd like to look into it further. Now, if you're like, Claire, I can't do smoke. I'm asthmatic, I don't want smoke in the household, I have little ones, maybe you have a newborn, you don't want smoke around them, completely understandable. Then you're going to want to turn to some alternative options. So using sprays. Now we do 3 sprays that can be used for cleansing crystals. Now, the reason we do this is because people have different needs, and that is something I've been practicing now for over 25 years. And everyone's different. Everyone has different medical needs as well as spiritual needs, and smudging tends to cross over with all of that. So we have our energy clearing, which is practically fragrance free. This is made with essences, so flower essences, gem essences that we make ourselves. You can choose to have a floral water, which again, we make our own floral waters here, if you want to add a little bit of fragrance, and it will be a very light, natural scent because it's from nature. Or it's just as it is here, it's just practically fragrance free. The other one that we do is our smudge spray. So we have a smudge spray which is infused with white sage, with Palo Santo, with frankincense. So it's got a light smell to it, but it's certainly not what I would call fragranced or scented in any strong way. It just has a little, you'll be able to smell, oh yeah, that's definitely, you know, steeped in this and had those ingredients in it. And then we do our Palo Santo and sage spray, which has got the essential oils in and has also been infused with the wood and the leaves as well, and that's got scent to it. So for those that like essential oils, that like the smell of sage, that like the smell of Palo Santo but can't burn in their house, they can still have the scent energy and its natural energy. Oh my gosh, I think I have one of Ellen's hairs, guys. She was all up in here before I started filming. So that's the three we do, but there are many sprays out there and you can make your own sprays if you want. The key to a spray working effectively for cleansing your crystals is that it is really energized. I'm talking moon energy, cooling down energy. We put energy in using a double terminated wand and calling energy from several different sources to go into our sprays. You want a lot of energy in there because you want it to be as powerful as possible, getting really up there with the smoke. It's never going to be quite there because smoke just has something about it that gets through all the nooks and crannies, but these are a very, very close second. And you can use the sprays with things like selenite that normally you would keep away from water, because with the spray you do it from a distance. So I can literally do that, and this is now, hopefully that was in shot, I wasn't even looking, this is now practically dry. I mean, it's completely dry now because it's evaporated, so it barely got wet. So it's suitable for most crystals in your collection. You only need a couple of sprays if you've got a really, really potent one. Now, water on the whole, I don't particularly recommend, because then you're going to have a more extensive knowledge of crystals and what crystals like water and what crystals don't like water. You don't want to damage your crystals. Everyone knows about selenite, and you know, don't sit it in water for ages because it's going to degrade the crystal. But there are many other crystals as well that either will react badly to water or are toxic crystals that you would not want to have sitting in water, creating that toxic water in your home. And if you've got pets, children, you don't want them going anywhere near that water. So you need to be a little bit more cautious with that for both your crystals and health reasons. But the quartz family can all be cleansed by water. So you can run them through a stream, you can run them even under a tap. Not my personal preference, because obviously there's like chlorine, all sorts of things in tap water, but you can run your crystals through water. You can sit your quartz crystals in water. Just be sure to take a microfiber cloth afterwards and give them a wipe over so you don't get that kind of stain that you get on shower glasses after you've, you know, had a shower. You don't want that on your crystals. So being really careful with that. Now, another thing you can cleanse with is Florida water. Again, I don't recommend the commercial version, which is fragrance oils and all of that stuff. You can make your own Florida water. We make and sell our own Florida water. Our Florida water is not clear because it's actually been brewed. If you go over to our group and type in Florida water in the search in our Facebook group, you'll see all the pictures of the different batches of Florida water I've made and how it comes out afterwards. So if that's something you're interested in, you might like that. Florida water, you just take a bowl of water, add a little cap of the Florida water to it, or you can even take a spray and add a little bit of Florida water to your spray to make it even more potent, and take a microfiber cloth and again clean your crystals using the Florida water diluted mix. But again, you have to know your crystals and water versus the crystal. Another one is salt or brown rice. Now, the reason I'm lumping them together is because they both create, in essence, the same problem, which is waste. Now, salt has an additional issue in the fact that it can scratch your crystals and it can dry out certain types of crystals and cause them to fracture and break. So selenite is not one I would recommend putting in salt. Black tourmaline is not very good in salt. Calcites don't do great in salt because it's not instant like a spray or rubbing Florida water on it or using a smoke. You have to leave it in salt for about 24 hours. So it's sitting in there, and if you're doing it regularly, it draws moisture out of the crystal and makes them crumbly. So it's fine for your quartzes, but it can scratch them. So it's not a favorite method of mine. The brown rice is much more gentle, but both of these are not practical if you do have clusters and things, by the way. Don't get, I always remember when I think I was about 14, and I tried to cleanse with brown rice, and I still have the cluster. It's actually over there. And I had this beautiful clear quartz cluster. It was only small. I mean, I was young. I save up all my money and buy crystals. And I put it in the rice and I poured the rice on it. I was like, oh, cover it in the rice, get it cleansed, Claire. That's what you need to do. And then afterwards I realized there's now rice jammed into my cluster that I cannot get out. It took a very long time. It was not a happy time, but I learned a valuable lesson. So be very careful if you have clusters. I don't recommend salt. I don't recommend rice. Rice takes about 72 hours to cleanse your crystals, but it is gentler. It's not as drying on your crystals as salt, so you have more of a variety there. But you can't eat the salt afterwards and you can't eat the rice afterwards, so it creates a lot of waste because this salt and this rice is absorbing any low vibrations, negative energies. Then you don't want to go and eat that. So it is quite a wasteful method of cleansing, and with all of my crystals that you can, it just wouldn't be possible. But if you have a very small collection, or you just want a nice easy way to keep your tumble stones cleared, because some people carry tumble stones every day and are doing intensive work or going through a cancer treatment, for example. So having a little bowl of salt next to the bed each night and putting their crystals in there overnight helps to keep that energy clear on those crystals. So for some people it is very practical for their tumbles and the ones they carry on them, which is why I wanted to mention it. Now, another method you can use is earth. So if you have a garden, then you can take your crystals out and place your crystals down on the grass or on the soil, and they need a good few hours out there. Most people say 24 hours, but you could get away with leaving them for the day. But that in itself has a few little risks in the fact you don't want direct sunlight on your crystals. One, it's a fire hazard with some of them, and two, it will fade crystals as well, such as amethyst, calcites. They can actually turn white over time. So it's not great as a regular cleansing way of doing things unless you have a lot of shade in your garden. If you have a big tree, you can go and place them all around the roots of a tree. Amazing. Awesome way to cleanse, going straight into the earth. It really has a different energy to it. So try it with just a couple of crystals if you would like, and just see the difference of the energy there. Some people also like to bury their crystals. They'll go out on the full moon, take their crystals, bury them in soil, take them out the next day, and then they will have been cleansed and charged up at the same time. And this again works great for things like tumblestones and palms, but it's not going to be practical, nor is it going to be good for cleaning, to put your rough pieces or your large pieces in there. So you can customize and use more than one method depending on the crystal that it is that you are cleansing, or you may find one method that's your favorite and you stick with that 99% of the time. So, have I missed anything? I always have to ask myself this at the end of a video, because otherwise I press stop and I'm like, dang woman, you've completely forgotten that. But I think that's the main methods that I wanted to talk about today. I did want to quickly cover the question of, do all crystals need cleansing? And for me, you may disagree, and that is fine, but for me, yes, all crystals need cleansing. There is absolutely no reason why a citrine, which is quartz, would not need cleansing compared to an amethyst that is quartz. There's no energetic reason behind that. Selenite gets brought up quite a bit, and I do understand why, because we're always saying low vibrations don't survive around selenite. So then the automatic assumption is, well, then selenite never needs cleansing because it's always getting rid of that energy, which to some extent is true. It certainly does not need cleansing regularly at all. Some pieces once a year I might cleanse them, but selenite does tend to get a little bit grey, a little bit misty around the edges. The more you work with your crystals, you'll find out if it's by touch, if it's by look, if you can just sense it, when your crystals need cleansing and when they don't. And for me, selenite does always need cleansing, but very few and far between. But all my pieces are cleansed probably at least once a year. Pieces that I'm using as grid base and charging plates and all of that are really getting heavy duty use. I like to do it as well as a form of care for that crystal, to show I am thankful for the work that you are doing, and I'm going to take the time now to cleanse you and to charge you. And it really helps you build a bond with your crystals as well. But you don't need to over cleanse, you don't need to cleanse on the daily, but it is good to have your cleansing practice down. Now, there are definitely other methods you can use. You can actually cleanse crystals yourself, but the reason I'm not going to talk about that here today is because I don't have time to teach you. And when you cleanse crystals yourself, either with your breath or with your hands, you need to have the knowledge to be able to gather the energy that you're cleansing off the crystal and then to place that somewhere else, because you don't want that energy leaking into you or leaking into your home, because yes, it's left the crystal, but now it's in your home or it's on your hands, which has then gone into you. So there are other ways of cleansing with energy and things like that. And maybe if it's something that's interesting to you, let me know down below. I might do a video on that separate, either later on here or over in the Facebook community. So that is it from me, my lovelies. I hope you are all staying well. It's a heat wave right here. I'm not best pleased. I do not like the heat. I'm an autumn girl and winter. You'll never hear me moan it's too cold. You'll definitely hear me moan it is too hot. But have a lovely rest of your day, whatever it is you are doing, and I will speak to you all very soon. Blessed be.